Hello, welcome to another video by LSX Engines, Tuning, and Marine. In this video, I'm beginning the process of rebuilding a 4.3 liter V6 Mercruiser engine. And this block has not been cleaned yet, and all I've done really is wipe out the bearing saddles in the block and put the upper bearing shells in, and then I put the bearing caps on. And what I'm doing now is measuring bearing clearances with my dial bore gauge. This is the dial bore gauge here. And as you can see, I've instead of writing them on paper, I decided to write them on the block. So I've already measured bearings 1 and 2. This is the front of the engine right here. So I measured bearings 1 and 2, and my clearances were 2.4514. Not the clearance, but the actual diameter, inside diameter of the bearing. So the inside diameter on this one is 2.4514, 2.4511. I've just measured number 3, 2.4513, but I have not loosened the cap yet, and I'm not going to until I do number 4. I did the first 2, and then I took the caps off because my dial bore gauge, when you put it in you do number 3, you have to put it through holes 1 and 2, and you don't have enough room to rock the gauge back and forth to get a reading with these caps still in place. So I've gone ahead and removed these 2 caps, and now I've done number 3 and about to do number 4. This is nothing new. I've showed this in a previous video on rebuilding a 5.7 liter, but what is new is this may be the last time I do it this way. As a business, building engines one after another, I'm constantly trying to figure out ways to go faster and faster, but still maintain quality. I don't like using plastic gauge because I just don't. I don't like the mess it makes having to scrape bearings back off with my fingers and stuff like that. But I just feel like I get when I measure bearings, I will know whether my clearances are right before I even put the thing together, and which I'm fixing to qualify that. But by measuring the inner diameter of these bearings and the outer diameter of the journals on the crankshaft, and I know what my clearances are, and I can just assemble it without using plastic gauge and all that. All right, having said that, about 2 weeks ago, I was assembling a 5.7 V8 engine, and I'd gone through the process of measuring the bearings, or measuring the inside diameter of the bearings, measuring the outside diameter of the journals. Everything was fine. Clearances all seemed fine. Put the crank in the block and was, cleaned the block, cleaned the crank, was assembling the motor, put the crank in the block, and as I tightened down the end bearing cap, there's actually 5 bearings on the V8. So I had the first 4 bearing caps installed, and the last bearing cap, number 5, when I tightened it down, the crankshaft bound up. It would not rotate. I could get it barely torqued, and the crankshaft wouldn't spin. That's a big problem. So I spent the next approximately 3 hours trying to figure out how to make that crankshaft spin. And I started playing the shell game of moving these bearing shells. I moved the bearings from, say, this position to the front position. I think what I remember doing was I took all my largest clearances and started my large clearance on the back, and then moved to the next largest, and the next largest, the largest, the next smallest, the next smallest, the next smallest. And with the goal of trying to get all my clearances in the back so I could try to free that crankshaft up and make it spin. But after struggling with it about 3 hours, I never could get the crankshaft to spin, so I just gave up. And I had to take all the bearings out, substitute a whole brand new crankshaft in place of it, and redo the whole process again, remeasure the bearings and all that. So I had a good 6 hours of wasted time because of the fact that I had a binding crankshaft. I still don't know why the crankshaft bound. I'm taking it back to a machine shop tomorrow. It could be either the bearings. The bearings are brand new. They're brand new Cleveite 77. I don't know what the part number is, but they're the P style, the tri-metal style bearings, best bearing money can buy. So I don't know if the bearing was defective and was out of shape and was binding up the crankshaft or not. But I'm taking the crankshaft back to the machinist because they're the ones that machined it, and I'm going to let them put it on their machine and try to check it for straightness. They can put it on a crankshaft turning machine, and they can put a dial indicator on it and tell if it's straight or not. And if it's not straight, they can machine it and make it straight again. I mean, we're talking just a few thousandths of an inch out of being straight, and they can machine that out and put put it back straight by machining all the journals again. But that's beside the point. I wasted 6 hours on that crankshaft. So the point I'm making is that this may be the last time I do this way. What I plan to do in the future is go ahead and clean off the bearing saddles in the block, clean the bearing caps, clean everything where a bearing would fit. Not necessarily clean the block, but clean everything where a bearing would fit. Wipe the bearings off, put the bearings in place, clean the crankshaft journals, not necessarily clean the whole crankshaft, but wipe the crankshaft journals, the main journals, not the rod journals. Place the crankshaft in the block, put oil on it, tighten down all the bearing caps to spec, and obviously as I tighten down each bearing cap, I'll make sure it still spins because I put oil on it. Once you put oil on it, you can spin it. And as I tighten each bearing cap, make sure the crankshaft still spins. You just say I tighten this one, then I tighten that one, then I tighten that one. And if the crankshaft is still spinning, then I'll do number 4 or 5 on a V8. And I would tighten down all these bearing caps and make sure the crankshaft spins before I check any bearing clearances or mirrors or anything with a dial bore gauge or anything. Because if that crankshaft locks up and stops spinning at that point, there's no sense in continuing with that crankshaft. There's no point in doing all the work to measure bearing clearances when the crankshaft is going to lock up anyway. So the point I'm making is that by measuring bearings individually, measuring 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 separately with a dial bore gauge and with a micrometer on the crank, you can't tell if that crank is crooked. You're measuring the individual bearings, but you're not measuring how they all interact together inside a block. So going forward, in the interest of saving time and not wasting all my time on a bad crank, I'm going to go ahead and clean the block minimally to get to where I can put the crank in it without damaging it. Put the crank in it with oil on the bearings, torque down all the bearing caps, and see if the thing spins. And if it spins, then I'll take it back out and measure bearing clearances the same way I'm doing now. But it'll save me a huge amount of time. If that crank is bad, I won't spend all my time measuring bearing clearances, because once you measure bearing clearances and you can't use that crank, you've wasted all that effort. You got to remeasure everything, because when they take the crank back and turn it again, it'll have a whole new clearance because they've taken metal away, and you'll be using new bearings. So the point, I wasted a huge amount of time because I did not check the crank for straightness before I ever did all this measurement of bearings. This particular engine, I'm measuring the same way I have been. I'm measuring bearing clearances because I had set it up that way. But like I say, going forward, I will be checking the straightness of my cranks by putting them in, spinning them, make sure they're straight and spin freely, and then I'll check my clearances. And actually, if they spin freely, your clearances are probably good enough. I mean, they're probably big enough. They may be too big, but they're definitely not too small, because if they're too small, the crank probably wouldn't spin anyway. But going forward, that's what I'm going to do. Like I say, it's a constant battle to try to be faster and faster, but still maintain the quality. And I think that this change in my process will help me speed up building engines. So having said that, I'm now about to measure this last bearing, write the number down on the block, take all the caps off, go get my crankshaft, clean it off a little bit, put it in here, put some oil on it, see if it spins, or put all my caps back on, torque them down, and see if the thing spins. And then I will take the crank out and mic it, check my bearing clearances, clean everything up, and put it together. So as I was saying, I've now put the crankshaft in, I've oiled the bearings, and torqued all the caps down to 77 foot-pounds. And I finished measuring. I'm documenting the measure now. That's the rear main bearing diameter is 2.462. Number 3 is 2.4513. Number 2 is 2.4511. And number 1 is 2.4514. So this serves as to document what the inside diameter of the main bearings were on this build for the customer. Also, while I got this crank, this is a good time to explain 4.3 V6 crankshafts, and now they're kind of odd. So if you have looked at some of my V8 videos, you'll know that say pistons 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8. The journal that the connecting rod bearings ride on is one journal. The two rods share. They'll be side by side on the same smooth journal across. The V6s, each rod rides individually on a specific journal for that cylinder. So this rod would ride through that hole. This rod would come from that hole there, and so on, all the way down. So you have a set 6 separate journals for each rod. And you'll notice they're kind of staggered a little bit. Well, the reason they're staggered is this is a V6, and it's called an even fire V6. So in order to fire even fire, being 120, to be even fire for a V6, it must fire 120 degrees every apart. Well, this is the 90 degree V block. So if, in other words, if you take this V8 right here and the two V's form a 90 degree angle. Well, that's not 60 degrees, it's not 120 degrees. So in order to make the firings even and fired 120 degrees apart, each of these rods or each of these journals is staggered 30 degrees from each other in the rotation. So there's a 30 degree angle from the center line of this crank out to this journal. If it formed a line, this line would be 30 degrees apart from that line, and so on for all the way down for these 6 cylinders. So because it's a V6 with 120 degree separation between firings, but it's a 90 degree block, these journals have to be offset by 30 degrees. I thought there was a good time to explain that, if somebody was curious about why they're built that way. Also, having this crank offset like that, being a 90 degree block with a 120 degree firing order, that's why they put the balance shaft in here. The balance shaft helps to counteract some of the imbalance caused by having these firings occur, say 30 degrees off from where they normally would in a true, like a 60 degree V6 where the banks are 6 degrees apart doesn't have a balance shaft because it's balanced. The crankshaft doesn't have to have this split wrist pin like it, or not wrist pin, split crank pin like it does on the V8s. So just thought you'd be interesting to know that. All right, so this crankshaft spins. The whole purpose of this little segment here was to show you that I've cranked all the journals down, or all the bearing caps down, and this crankshaft spins. So at this time, I can continue to measure my clearances and know that when I put this thing back together, it will be working. Like I said, I've already got my inside diameter of my journals. my inside diameter of my bearings. So now I just have to go back and mark the crank journals, and I'll know my clearances. I can slap this thing together and go on. I don't have to plastic gauge it, don't have to do anything else, just put it together and keep on rocking. So that's what I'm about to disassemble this thing and mark my crankshaft journals, and I'll get my bearing clearances, and I sure hope they are within spec, so because they would be wasted again, but I'm pretty sure they are. So I'll get my bearing clearances, and I'll write those on the block on this side and document that for the customer, and so he'll know what his bearing clearances are before I put this engine together. So that's what I'm going to do going forward. So hope you enjoy the video. If it helps you in your process or helps you in building your engine, I'd love to know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe to my channel.